the date of June 23rd, 2021. Roll call members, please.
General,
Yes.
Leaders,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Herder,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Here.
You've all had a chance to read the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes or make corrections?
I would move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion is carried. I will now read my statement before the meeting starts. This public hearing will be conducted pursuant to the board's rules of procedure as adopted May 26, 1988. We will first hear the report of the planning director on the detailed information and observations regarding the request, if not done so in written form prior to the hearing. Next, we will take any testimony of any applicants and his or her witnesses. Upon completion of the applicant's testimony, I'll call upon members of the audience wishing to make a statement concerning the request. Persons in favor of the request shall be heard first, followed by those who oppose it. At any time during the presentation of testimony, the members of the board may interrupt to ask questions or make comments on what has been said. Upon completion of all testimony, the applicant will be allowed to make a closing statement to the board. Upon completion of the applicant's closing statement, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the request. After the public hearing has been closed, we will hear the recommendation, if any, of the planning director, and upon completion of all discussion, I'll entertain a motion of the members of the board regarding the disposition of the application. Each speaker addressing this board shall step forward to the podium, state their name and address before proceeding with their testimony or evidence. I would ask that you spell your last name. This board shall not be bound by strict rules of evidence, but does reserve the right to exclude evidence or testimony that may deem to be irrelevant, immaterial, incompetent, or unduly repetitious. As chairman, I will rule on all questions relating to the admissibility of evidence, which may be overruled by the majority of the board. The board may grant continuances in any case for good cause shown to any interested party who has entered his appearance. The board may at any time request a continuance of the hearing for purpose of giving further notice, taking further evidence, gathering further information, touring the proposed site, or for other such reasons the board may find sufficient. In such case, we shall state the specific reasons for the continuance and set a date, time, and place when the matter will be continued. All official actions of this board will be made at public hearing by motion made, seconded, and polling of the membership. If conditions are imposed, such conditions shall be included in the motion or amended hereto. Our final decision will be prepared in writing and will be part of the public record of this board. Once this board has reached a decision on a case, that decision shall be final. Section 335.18 of Iowa Code states, any persons or persons jointly or severally aggregated by any decision of the Board of Adjustment under the provisions of Chapter 335, or any taxpayer or any officer, department, board, or bureau of the county may present to the court of record a petition duly verified setting forth that such decision was illegal in whole or in part, specifying the grounds of the illegality. Such petition shall be presented to the court within 30 days after the final decision of the office of the board. Upon hearing that, I would ask for a motion to open the public hearing on case CU-2021-03, Terry Rimple and Janice Shannon.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion is carried. Public hearing is open. Would ask that Terry Hempel or Janice Shannon come to the podium, please.
I don't know if you guys.
Thank you.
Good evening.
We have to say our name.
Our names,
Yes.
I'm Terry Hempel, Tarryhempel, and my wife.
Jan Shanahan, Shanahan, and we, the address that we're talking about is 21534 Chestnut Road, Council Bluffs, Iowa, 51503.
As you can see here, we've been in business for many years, and we have a pumpkin patch, apple orchard operation just in about a mile on Pioneer Trail. And we have a full food license. We've been through all the processes for all the licenses and so forth, and we've had such success at our place that with even our food service, our snack bar food service per se, that we have a desire to move it forward to be classified as a formal restaurant. And so it's really as straightforward as that, just amending to what we already have with the variances and the permissions that the county has already granted us in the past.
When you guys plan on starting this, I guess?
It's really just sort of grown
Okay.
over the years to a point now where it's really the volume that we think that we probably should make it more official in that existence as well.
Yeah, we started out originally with like a temporary where you'd get like the every 2-week thing, and then we expanded more and more and got busier in our fall season, and then that's when they said, you guys need to make it kind of official, and then we did that, and now we've expanded even more. We've been really, really blessed. We serve a lot of neighbors and friends and stuff, so our food sales have gone up, of course not last year,
Right.
but in a regular lifetime, our food sales have gone up a lot, so.
The employees and employees.
It's
Right.
really a family business, just
Yeah.
Jan, myself, and our daughter Sarah, and occasionally our son steps in when things get really busy. So it's not a really huge function or business per se, but
Yeah.
it
During the
does-
fall, we have a few extra people.
Yeah, definitely during the fall, we see a lot more
for
people.
the 6
but-
weeks or whatever, but typically it's strictly family, so. Except for when we're here, so, our kids
Yeah.
are here, are at the place
They're
right
renting
now,
the place
so they're
tonight.
renting a place. I'm sure they're doing great.
Yeah, as always. We've had the fire marshal process, we report to the counter every fall, water test. Like we said, the full food license through state of Iowa. We've got the trained food service person, that would be myself. Jan's gonna go this in 2 years when it comes up for renewal.
Yeah.
I think we've done everything correct to the
Yeah.
requirements of the local and state.
And our
Regulations.
license is wine and beer.
Yeah, and we just
Yeah.
serve wine and beer, and we have the licenses, of course, for that as well, too. We serve wine primarily from Prairie Crossing. They're south of Trainer, so we partnered with a local producer to share their product, And then we work through Dole for, that line of product, and then Glacier Premier out of Sioux City.
How many people would you seat like in an evening?
In an evening, maybe 20.
It
It
depends.
flexes pretty significantly.
Our Friday nights are busier because we have $2.50 taco night. So we've had times where we're at, half the tables are full, and then we've had where the tables are full, So, but we see 85 is
Or-
what
or
our,
90
or
90 is
90 is
our
our
license,
fire.
We've got a lot of parking, well beyond 100. We have a portion of our orchard that normally is just a grassy area that we allow parking in. Primarily, that's used during the fall, during the pumpkin patch and apple orchard season, But we've also got fields out back in our farm too, that if we need to expand even further, we can park people out back as well.
Our
too.
parking lots used to be apple trees.
Which
When we came in and asked, they said, oh, you have to have off-street parking, so we didn't know much 20-some years ago, so we had to go in and pull a lot of apple trees, so,
yeah.
which was sad.
After
So-
planting them all.
So, now we have parking. So,
If you have 85 people in there, you're running your kids' legs off, it sounds like.
yeah,
It's a lot
they're
to serve.
great, though. We're really blessed. They're pretty cool kids, so, which is
The way we
nice.
do the restaurant, process is it's not like where folks just come in and sit down at a table and we go over and we take their order and so forth. They actually come up to the counter and order their food, then we make it and then we carry it out. A lot like a Culver's or something like that. So it's not as laborious, as far
We
as.
run and clean up their tables and do all that stuff, get them extra
And of
stuff.
course, most everybody wants to talk quite a bit, so
Yeah,
we spend a lot of time socializing.
yeah, we do.
Okay.
Can't believe I don't know about this place. I eat everything.
We try and keep it a secret.
Yeah, people do say, oh, you need more signage down there, you need all this stuff, and we go, but then people know where we're at. So
Yeah,
we just
we
tease
just-
about it, so.
We like it being just sort of, you
Yeah.
discover it is cool, hey, fantastic,
Mhm.
You got 36 acres you total?
right.
I think if no one else has any questions, I think we're good, so thank you for coming up.
Thank you,
Okay.
appreciate it.
At this time, I'd ask for if anyone wants to speak in favor of the proposal.
You can go ahead and sit
Yes,
down.
take a seat.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your time.
Is there anyone who would like to speak opposed to it? No. If there's no one to speak, I guess I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Also moved, public hearing.
Second.
So moved in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same, public hearing is closed. I'd ask for Matt's recommendation.
So the first part I want to make sure that the board knew was that we did reach out to them ahead of time because of that they had grown in what was going on, and they had been in our office a few different times on permitting their other conditional uses that they had going on. But that also, this is, and I told them this, I said, what they have going is really kind of what some of our code changes we had done in 2015, 2016, we had hoped for, which was kind of those homegrown operations that get people to explore Pottawattamie County and enjoy that aspect of it. And you can see kind of on their menu where they talk about the rustic cut burgers and how they partner with the vineyard to come sell their products there. We also have a spot like that just up by Crescent, which is our Stanley Snack Shack that we went through. And all of those things have really experienced good success. And I'm glad that we're able to help partner with them and be a part of that process as they go through it. So the staff recommendation, based on the information that has been given and is from the planning department, is to approve the application and is subject to the following conditions. The conditional use permit and its conditions are separate from the existing conditional use permits issued on the property, and that the conditions on those said conditional uses are still in effect and shall be adhered to. The applicant shall continue to secure the necessary state permits associated with the restaurant and bar. No on-street parking shall be allowed for the restaurant or bar, and signage shall be limited to what's allowable underneath Pottawattamie County Code. This is based on the following findings of fact. The subject property is located in the Class A4 Les Hills District. County zoning ordinance, which is adopted in conjunction with the land use plan, stipulates that this proposal is a permitted use in the A4 district. The dining and tasting facility is currently a permitted use. Granting this conditional use is allowing owners to expand on their menu items and hours of operation. The subject property is located in an area that's primarily utilized for agricultural and residential purposes. The conditional use is not foreseen to have a negative impact on the area properties. The existing road system is adequate to accommodate the conditional use request. The existing structure meets the code criteria that the tavern shall occupy no more than 25% of the floor area from the total building dedicated to both uses. The proposed use is not the dominant use of the subject property, and the aforementioned conditions should minimize any adverse impact on adjoining properties.
If there's no more discussion on the board, I guess I would entertain a motion on.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the stuff Matt just talked about.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Ask for a roll call vote.
Herder,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Leaders,
Yes.
Jenner.
Yes. State to the applicant that your thing has been approved. Congratulations.
It's too bad you closed by 7 o'clock tonight, then we could go there afterwards.
We'll stay over
I'll make a motion to open public hearing for case number CU 2021-04.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public hearing is open. I would ask for William or Valerie Sullivan to come up to the podium.
We apologize that we don't have copies of our, do you guys already have them?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
we had a
because
copy,
we-
so.
Okay,
Yep.
great, because we requested it, so. So, anyway, I'm Valerie Sullivan, Sullivan.
And I'm Bill Sullivan, Sullivan.
So our property that we're here today about is 24896 Juniper Road in Underwood.
Okay. You just want to kind of talk a little about what you guys have proposed for that?
Well, we have requesting a rural enterprise business permit. We buy and sell pickup boxes. We anticipate 1 or 2 sales per week or as few as 1 or 2 a month. It can fluctuate. We plan to build a shop on our property to accommodate the higher valued boxes. This building would be used to store additional farm equipment and to service and restore our own trucks and tractors. Storage for the additional boxes would be behind the building. There would be a steel privacy fence installed that would match the building and would block the view of the boxes being stored. There will be no work done for hire and no employees. We would work only on our own equipment. We will continue to maintain the area of our property. Everything is mowed and there are no weeds. We will also continue our dust control application on our frontage, which is Juniper Road. Setbacks for the building would be 100 feet from the backside, which is the north, to allow for storage. Setbacks on the west would be 25 feet. The area around us is we have 2 neighbors, and except for them, our surroundings are farmland, railroad highway, Burlington Northern Railroad, and Interstate 80.
You're in between Railroad Highway and the interstate.
No, we're on the north side of Railroad Highway on Juniper.
Yeah, on Juniper, yeah.
I don't understand what the business is.
Well, we just buy and sell rust-free pickup boxes.
Buy and sell what?
Rust-free pickup boxes, you know, because around here they rust out.
Just
So-
the bed of the, like the bed of
Just
the
the
truck.
bed.
The bed, the back end of it,
Oh,
Not the
Yeah.
cab, not the frame, not the, just the.
just,
pickup boxes, I thought picking up boxes.
oh, yeah, oh, that's okay. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
I didn't see on here, how many acres is your property there?
About 4.85.
I'm gonna get.
4.85.
So is there a time, hours of business, or when this happens?
Right now I work, so we usually do it after hours or on the weekends,
In the evening
in the
or
evenings.
could be on a
So
Saturday.
What time does that mean?
Oh, it could be 8 o'clock.
So you just purchase them, store them.
And then I would sell them.
Resell 'em.
Do you,
Yes.
do you work on, do you do any work on them at
No.
all, or?
Nope, they come up and how they are is how we sell them.
Okay,
Some will have, most of them are pretty nice,
okay.
yeah, because,
There's a market for that? I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
well, you know, a body shop could charge them $1,500, $2,000 to fix their rust. And we come in underneath that most of the time. And sometimes people will come and buy them because it's the same color as their pickup. So they save a lot of paint time and stuff on that too, so.
You have a website?
Nope,
How do people hear about you?
by word of mouth, and we do advertise on Facebook now and then.
How many do you have on hand at one time?
It can vary 15 to 20. So we just have some forklift shelves, and so I just stack them. You know, we got them 2 rows high.
They're stacked inside?
They're just like the fork, no, they're outside.
They're outside.
Yep. So our goal is to get
have
a
a
privacy
building.
fence and
And a privacy fence and
Get it.
have it be out of sight.
Do you take delivery of them, like in odd hours, or is
No.
it delivery,
No.
is like freight, is it a freight guy that kind of brings the delivery to you?
usually we gotta be there at a decent time to get them. And we try to line them up for a Saturday if it's all possible.
So do you get them from salvage yards?
Yeah, we have friends that go down to Texas and Nevada
It wouldn't be
and Arizona.
down there.
So, and usually, most of the time I go to their place and pick them up. So we don't have very much traffic to speak of.
Right.
So I might go pick up 2 or 3 at one time. Sometimes I only get one. So, you just never know how it goes. But
Then you install them for them?
no,
Oh, they install them themselves?
yeah, we just set them on their trailer or whatever they got and away they go. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Yeah,
There's no work done there at all.
no, not on these.
I guess when they get there, there's not any work to have done.
No, you just set them on their trailer.
So okay, I guess I was looking on this, you kind of got this drawing here.
Yep.
On the, so the shop building it's not there right now, that's
No.
the proposed side,
No,
okay.
No.
that's to come.
All right.
And at that time, they'll be indoors? Is that what you're saying?
Some will be inside, the cheaper ones will be
Or
outside.
behind,
Be
or
outside.
behind.
Yep.
So is the back,
Not all.
the
The-
back of the building,
Is-
towards the railroad?
Nope,
No.
cornfield.
Cornfield or beanfield,
Yep.
From the building towards that?
towards
the road.
Juniper.
Yep,
Juniper.
yep. Mhm.
Railroad is-
And we're on the north side of Juniper. Railroad Highway is on the south side of us.
All right, if there's any other questions, you guys are welcome to have a seat and we'll hear from
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask for anyone who wants to speak in favor. I would ask this time, if anyone wants to speak opposed, please come forward. Remember to state your last name and your address, please.
I'm Fred McMains, MCMAINS, 24704 Juniper Road, Underwood, Iowa.
Jean McMains, MCMAINS. We're the property directly west.
West of this property. One of our biggest concerns is, since they've moved in, the landscaping and the dirt work around there has been pretty much uncontrolled. No dust control on the property whatsoever. There's been lots of dirt work that's been done already. And with a lot of the heavy rains we've had, water come up really, really close to our house. We've had water fill our ditch in front of our property. And we've actually, when we bought our house, or when we built our house, we raised our property 5 foot above the ground level where it was to make sure that we avoided all the water, because we had surveyed the land and realized that the properties above have a lot of water that come down, and now all of this is gonna be in the middle of all of that water, and we're concerned where that water is gonna go towards our property. It's one of our biggest concerns.
When we bought and when we were building the house, I think it was Kevin, what was his last name, at County. We talked to him about, the water line goes right in front of our house, and we went ahead and we pulled the bank back. It's nice to be able to mow your front. We pulled the dirt back and we made sure that we kept the water in good shape. We didn't bother anything. We didn't fill the ditch. We kept the ditch open for water. They moved in and they filled the ditch. He put up landscaping block on the property line, and he took the dirt and put it into the ditch, which means less water to hold in front of his property to come onto ours, plus whatever water now possibly, I don't know. He used to have a pile of rock right there on the lot line, and it changed the flow of the water some. I am concerned with now if we put a big building right on that corner,
The
it's gonna
building,
be
the
way
building will be
closer.
pretty much right across from our house.
Yeah, it's gonna be way closer to our house
Yeah.
than it is to theirs.
Yeah.
Our house is 25 foot off the
Off the
property
property.
line, so it'll be within 50 foot of our house.
And there is traffic at night in that property right now, so,
Yeah, I don't know what normal business hours are, but,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they come. I've never called the county
yeah,
to
we've never
complain about a
complained,
thing.
so.
But there are times when, yeah, the road has to be blocked in order for them to get the trailer unloaded or to get the trailer loaded, you know, but we are lucky enough that you can go down to 230th or 40th and go
Go back
around and
around.
get to our property. But it depends. Some of the hours are not, they're not normal business hours, no.
But our
Yeah.
biggest concern is the water flow coming off and
Well,
around the property and the buildings, so.
We have no drawing. We don't know what is proposed.
So 100 foot back, ours is about 125 foot off our back property line, so it's gonna be our house, their building, and do they want their building 30-some feet tall? Is that
I
also,
don't know. Was there
That's
separate?
oh, that's a separate,
That'll be the next public hearing.
Okay.
oh, tonight also?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I did not know that, sorry,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm concerned now when you talk about a privacy fence. Of course, I'm concerned about what the privacy fence will look like. I'm assuming they're gonna build it on property line. I don't
There
know.
are several, a couple miles from us is a division of 6 that have some buildings in the back, but they're buildings for their own personal use, not commercial property or being used as a business.
16
that
years
we
ago,
know
I
of,
bought
yeah.
agriculture ground and it was zoned for residential
Yeah.
use. And I sure don't want any commercial property next to my property, is what I guess my biggest thing is. I don't want to change any zoning to make anything commercial. I,
And it's not, they're not asking for a change in zoning.
What is the incline on, from the proposed building to?
it's
your
pretty
property?
flat. It's pretty
Pretty
flat. There's
flat.
there's not a lot of hills. It's
No.
like, there's somewhat because we built our house higher. We had it built with,
So much water, you don't anticipate, and with not
There's-
an incline, you don't anticipate much water to
there's a
come?
lot of water. I don't know your picture there, but if you can see, I'm thinking there's a little black line there. And that's a drainage ditch that used to be a ravine is what they tell me
This
before
is
we.
waterway right here, yeah.
Yeah, that carries a lot of water.
Yeah.
There are pretty steep hills back up and behind,
But you're,
farm
but
ground.
you're on the other side of that, right?
But then if it doesn't go through the culvert or cross the road, it comes down the flat ditch that was filled in and then into ours. And our ditch has been full of 5 foot of corn stalks and mud from heavy rains from up above, coming down through there. And we've had water, we're 25 feet off our property line and we've had water to a foot above or next to our egress
Come to the
windows on the east side.
Next to
So-
their property. Not lately, but,
How much
Oh.
property where your house is?
We have 2 acres.
well, 1 point, when you take out a
Yeah,
county road,
1.91 or something
1.7
like
or
that,
8.
yeah.
Well, who owns that drainage ditch? It belongs
They
to
do.
Both of you or not?
No,
No, they do, it's in between
It's on,
there.
he's gonna build on our side of the drainage ditch. The
His
drainage
house, his
ditch,
house sits on the east side, and then there's a draining ditch, and then there's a west side.
well, there's a
and
lot
then
of ground.
yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
yard between his house and the drainage
You not
ditch.
protect your side of the drainage ditch?
We don't own the
It's not on
drainage
our
ditch.
property,
Oh, it's on your not.
no, yeah,
It's gonna run between his shop and his house.
and closer to our property than his house.
I just don't want a big building that's gonna divert water my direction as opposed to all of the water that normally runs down through that ditch.
Well, if there's not an awful lot of parking around there, otherwise the building's gonna not let that happen, I would think. I mean, it's not gonna be taking any grass off of it. I mean, it will if it'll put a building on top of it.
But then that water coming down has to go around that building both ways.
And that could be accommodated, I would think. It should be accommodated for water flow, so that wouldn't be coming on them, would it?
I'd have to look a little bit further into it to see if there's actual drainage set through there. If it's, it could be a portion of a drainage district.
I think one of our other guests is gonna speak about
I was
water
gonna
flow,
say,
but,
You know, that
I have nothing else to add.
when they're building,
thank you.
Thank you.
they can build places so that the water flows.
Anybody else who would like to speak opposed at this time? Anybody else like to speak opposed at this time?
I'm Dave Christensen. CHRISTENSEN. We've been in that beautiful valley since 1971. We own 168 acres there. And in that 50 years, I've seen 3 10-inch rain events. And what happens on a 10-inch rain event is it goes down from the hills from the north, probably 125, 130 acres, maybe 140 acres, rushes down there on a 10-inch rain. Okay? And it will cover that gravel road 24 inches, and it will stay, well, you've been driving by it, you know. And it's just a lot of water. And if you put another building in, and I like you guys a lot, I welcome you to the neighborhood. I said, God bless you, come, we got a beautiful valley. It's not a personal thing for me, just I'm an old guy, I've been there 50 years, you know, and I just seen it. And I really think it's a mistake, unless you can figure out some way to control that water, because you're gonna get more 10-inch rains, 3 in 50 years, and we're due again, you know, and to say, oh, it's just never gonna happen again, it's gonna happen again. So let's, as a group, we wanna do the right thing, let's figure out how to control that rain. Now, if you put a shed in there, just like Fred was saying, it's gonna hit that building, and it's just gonna go like that, both ways. So you're gonna hurt somebody, somebody's gonna get hurt. So I don't think, and that's the purpose of this, and God bless you all for being here, you know? And that's what we're trying to do is just to do the right thing. So it just needs to be considered that there will be more 10-inch rains. And just picture that gravel road being 24 inches deep for 36 hours, okay? That's before we put more restriction where that water's gonna go. You know, for one thing that might help is that tube is only, that goes underneath the road there into my property. I got some property on the other side, south side of Bill here, and Fred and Jean. It's only about a 5-foot tube. I would say it should, in order to hold, some of the water problem is the tube's not big enough. Now, if you put an 8-foot tube in there, you know, or a 10-foot tube, well, then at least it could get away. But what happens is it comes down there and boils up, and then all of a sudden it just shoosh, like that. Then it backs up like water does, like a flood, you know, and that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna happen again. So I just want you to all be aware of that. And like I said, I love you guys. I'm glad you're here. When you come, I said, welcome to the neighborhood. Build your house high. That's what I said. Build your house high. And they did. They're not gonna get flooded out there. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say. And
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak opposed? All right, if there's no other discussion against the members, I guess I would ask for a motion to close the hearing.
Before you do that, Mr. Chairman, do you want to offer a closing statement for the?
Do you guys like to make a closing statement?
Yeah.
From the podium, please.
Okay.
You can come back up and make a closing statement.
Okay, well, we do appreciate the concern on the water. And we do have probably 150, 160 acres up north of us that drain down through our place. And when we got there, the tube did run over. But since then, in our property, I regraded the drainage ditch because it would go down there and it had such a severe angle at the road, it would run over the road, just like he said. But I have changed that now, and I got a gradual. We made the ditch wider and more gradual. The water will come down there now, and it lines up with the
What are
tube.
you talking about?
Okay. This is a
Where the
waterway
drainage
right
hits the
here.
road.
This is a waterway. This
Okay,
black
so-
line.
Right. And so the water's coming down here?
Nope, nope. It comes from up here.
Coming here?
Yep, it all comes through here. There's a
Okay,
hill
the
here.
arrow's going up, so
Yeah,
it's
just
confusing
pointing,
to
it's
me.
just pointing that the waterway continues
Okay,
up into
okay.
those fields.
Okay, and this is what you regraded?
This is what they're concerned about, yes.
And you
we
regraded?
regraded that, yeah. So
And
this
did-
ditch used to be over here.
And
we
didn't
moved
fill it
over.
in?
Oh, no, we moved it over so that it would line up with the tube. The tube goes under the road at an
Okay.
angle.
All right.
So we made the water so it'll line up with the tube. So here a couple of years ago, when we had all that snow runoff, the Mosquito Creek ran over 191.
Oh, yeah.
Well, our tube didn't run over. We had a lot of water come off of those hills, and it all went through the tube. Now, I'm not gonna deny that our ditch was pretty full. It was,
An inch
The
right?
ground was frozen.
but it took it. We had a whole lot. So we have taken into consideration of all the water damage, and the grading that we have done is gonna cooperate with, they will not get any of our water.
Has there been a 10-inch rain since you graded?
Now, we've had 5.
I think we had a 10-inch rain probably that same year in 2019. There was some pretty significant rainfall after the snow melt event happened.
Yes.
And then following up
That time you
behind
take all
that, we had
Yeah, 'cause your Mosquito Creek, 191 had water going across it, and that's the first time in, well, I've never seen it in my life, so,
pretty significant events happen that year.
yeah. So, and I do appreciate Dave, we do need a bigger tube, however, we're just working with what we got. And I did fill the ditch, the right-of-way of the ditch, I did do that. However, the county was out there and approved it because the water on that right-of-way goes down through our neighbor's drive, under their drive to a creek. So it's designed to go that way, the water is. Like off of their lawn, off of whatever. And yeah, it is not uncommon to get corn stalks. Sometimes when that tube would run over, you could get some corn stalks.
But the
just go
county
out.
approved that, what you did to that.
Yeah, so, but, the water that's coming down off of all the hills, Fred and Jean's land, right before Fred and Jean's land now, the land actually rises up just a little bit and then it falls down where their house is at. So they did good. They raised their house up because of that fall. The way that land is pitched there yet, above our ground, that land still comes up, not very much, but a little bit, and it's all still there. So the natural flow of water is still there. We haven't interrupted anything. The only thing we tried to do is work with the water because it was a problem. We had water running over the road at least 4 times since we bought the property. But since we did the ditch, we moved that ditch, we have never had that happen. So we do try to think about what we're doing. So.
Yep.
I too am a farmer. I too own my own Caterpillar for 6 or 7 years. And I lived up in the hills up north. So I understand how things need to work.
So the driveway to this building is 115 feet of gravel?
Yep.
And Juniper Road is gravel?
Yep. So in knowing that we're putting our shed where we're putting it, we know that it's gonna be within 20 feet of that waterway. We fully realize that. But to get to Fred and Jean's house, the water has got to go uphill to get there. And when we get done doing with our privacy fence and stuff, we're gonna put a little dike back there to ensure that we don't get water going that way, because it'll be in my shop if it does. So this is a planned event. And we pretty much got it figured out how it's gonna work.
As much as you can figure out what water will do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All you can do is work with it. You can't tell it what to do, but you can encourage it to go where you need it to go. And that's what we've done. So we did put terraces on our own property around our house and all that, so we keep the water away. But we have and along with those terraces, we put another one in there so that terrace comes around and properly drains it into the ditch that's already there, the drainage ditch. So.
You've thought about it a lot.
We have.
Oh, yeah, it's just the way it is. Yes. Any other questions?
There was a written statement that was submitted by David Ryan and Lynette Ryan that is signed. It was handed to you, each one there on your desk. So all the other points I believe in this were covered. The first point though, when you get the new building constructed, would you plan on removing the 3 semi-trailers that are parked?
Yes,
there?
that's why
That's
the
the
size of
plan.
the building, yes,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's,
to accommodate all that.
because we want it to look
Yep,
nice.
and,
We don't want that, no.
So then and then their point number 2 is hours of operation, which I believe that was addressed. The number of sales per week and month, where they currently advertise at. They said that
Getting
they,
out the correct address.
yeah, making sure that the customers got the correct address, because they did have a couple incidents where people came to their door looking for information
Yeah,
from them.
our driveways are
Our driveways are side by
Yeah.
side.
side by side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but no, we don't want that either, you know, we don't want that.
So that was,
Yeah, I think that's right.
okay,
Okay, thank you guys.
thank you.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public hearing is closed. This time I would ask for Matt's recommendations.
Based on the information that has been given, the recommendation by the planning department would be to approve the application subject to the following conditions. The area in which the subject accessory structure dedicated to the rural enterprise business shall be limited to what Pottawattamie County Code stipulates. The applicant shall erect a site obscuring fence behind the building as a storage area for any pickup boxes that are brought into the property for sale. Said pickup boxes shall not be stored outside of the fenced area. If generated, hazardous waste or byproducts will be handled in accordance with all government regulations. Any signage shall be limited to Section 8.090.030.06 of Pottawattamie County, Iowa Code, and installed after the building permit is issued. This is based on the following findings of fact. Number one, the rural enterprise business is a listed conditional use in the R1 district, which conforms with the land use policy plan. The subject property is located in an area that's primarily utilized for agricultural and residential purposes. The rural enterprise business is not foreseen to have negative impacts on the area properties. The number of pickup boxes that will be received by this rural enterprise business at any given time will be monitored by the applicant to ensure that the outside storage of pickup boxes complies with the requirements of being located in an area fenced behind the building as limited by the rural enterprise business code provisions. The existing road system is adequate to accommodate the rural enterprise business. The aforementioned conditions should minimize any adverse impact on the adjoining properties and limited by size of the rural enterprise business. The rural enterprise business complies with the conditions imposed for such a land use as follows. The rural enterprise business is located on the same property where the business owner's residence is located. The rural enterprise business is for buying and selling of pickup boxes. There is no evidence that the rural enterprise business will create excessive noise, obnoxious odors, or electrical disturbances. The total area devoted to the rural enterprise business is less than 1 acre. No on-street parking will be permitted with this rural enterprise business. The only other condition that I would recommend for the board at this time would be that for the loading and unloading of the pickup boxes, needs to be done on site and not on the road. And I think that's something that we can work with the property owners to ensure that they have a gravel area designed for them to pull completely off of the road, so then that way the traffic doesn't have any disturbances there.
Would that require an additional width of the driveway or?
Potentially, if they, depending on how they come in, if could be a semi turnaround, potentially that they have to put up in there. But I think agriculturally, they're able to do that in those areas, and I think that would be able to work the same for them.
So is that waterway, is that like an easement on that property? Is that it's a permanent,
It's just,
A ditch.
it's just a ditch.
just the way it went? But the ditch, I mean, like a road ditch is a county ditch. Is this the same?
No,
This is in their property.
It's just the way the water runs?
Correct.
No easement, no? And if there were semis there permanently, isn't that against the county rules?
not necessarily. If they're licensed, and able to be hooked onto, then no, there are people that utilize them that way. Now, what, a lot of people, what's had been popular a while back was people would buy the Connex boxes and drop them on the ground,
In the store?
which is not allowable by Pottawattamie County Code unless it's temporary for construction purposes only. And
That's
so,
what I was thinking of.
yeah, so the ones that are out there now are still do have fixed wheels and tires on them. I do think that there was one point in time, and it may be now, to where they kind of had some dirt piled up in front of them where you couldn't actually hook onto them and move them. But I think that's will be kind of one of the benefits of being able to add the building to it, to be able to get rid of those.
Question, so about the drainage seems to be the big concern. So, I mean, and I think the drainage, we're worried about putting up the building, creating more runoff. I think that's what everybody's after. So my question is, if we didn't, even if we didn't permit this, would it be possible for them to build a building on the property?
Yes.
Of similar size?
Similar size or larger in that same location. The drainage part that was brought up a lot and discussed, that is, we work with property owners all the time in the floodplain, in areas like this. And it is one benefit of Pottawattamie County having building codes and our grading and excavating ordinance as well, that we can help them shape and recognize. He sounds like he's very well aware that they have a waterway that comes down through there and that they have to work with. There are times when property owners don't, but we get out on the site evaluation and we talk to them about the discussion of what it is to move, whether they're going to try to move a waterway, and then that gets the Iowa DNR involved, because our office doesn't, if another property starts generating water onto other properties, that goes into the Iowa DNR and away from us. But we can help in that aspect of knowing, what elevations that they want to try to get up to, even if in a location unlike where he's at, if they do have major flood event or, major water events like that, it might not be a bad idea to have some flood venting in that building, which allows water to pass straight through rather than take out your doors or your building along with it. But we do work with property owners in those aspects.
Well, it's to his benefit to maintain that waterway, but he doesn't have to. Is that what you're saying?
We have had other property owners that go and fill in natural waterways and reap the damage of what that causes around, so.
But so with when they're gonna construct the building, they have to have a grading plan, is that correct?
Correct. They have to have a grading.
And that would happen whether we would approve this conditional use or not, correct?
Correct, that's a part of a building permit, whether they were just coming into our office to build a regular pole barn for themselves, they would have to supply us with a grading plan. Then also, because much like when you build in town, you have to silt fence off areas, you have to silt fence off and maintain that runoff onto your own property. Is it 100% effective? No, because you do have major rain events that happen during construction season that blows out everyone's silt fences, but our inspectors are really good about getting back out there, making sure that they re-secure their silt fences, scrape out the areas that need scraped out. So even though on gravel roads, we have started getting to where we get out there and we'll have them put in longer gravel drives to make sure they're not tracking mud out onto the road. All those different things during construction that happens to maintain it in a better fashion than what we had in the past.
Do you think we need to go out and look at it, or would you guys already do that to make sure that the water appears to be able to go the right way?
That, we won't be out there necessarily to judge where the water's going on that. We'll be out there through the entire construction process. We go out for an initial site evaluation, where they stake out the building where it's going to be at. We come out when the footings are dug. We inspect the footings of the building, and then once the then depending on what style of building, if it's steel building, we're back out once the steel gets put in place. If it's a post frame building, then we're back out once the post frames are put in place and the siding's all on, to inspect those, make sure all the wind bracing, everything like that's put in.
So if you see anything that looks suspect, you would address it then?
They do address it throughout the entire, yeah. They're in contact with them multiple times throughout the construction process.
Yeah, I guess if you want to play more discussion, I guess we'll ask for a motion.
But this is just for them to have the business, that's what we're
Correct.
discussing now, we're not discussing anything about a building.
Right.
Yeah.
This is just to allow them
Yeah.
to do the business that they want to do. And
Anybody want to propose a motion for this?
I would move that we approve this, given the stipulations that the board has set, and that they be carried out.
Ask for a second.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Roll call vote.
Leaders,
Yes.
General,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Herder.
Yes.
State the applicant, their case has been approved. For the conditional use permit.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes, now we would ask for a motion to open up the next item on our agenda. Be
Case ZV 2021-01, I make a motion to open public hearing.
A second?
It's been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public hearing is open. Wilma, Dolly, would you guys want to come up and state your case for the second part of this?
Do you need our information again? Our name and all that?
Sure.
Do you want that? Okay. Valerie Sullivan, Sullivan.
Bill Sullivan, Sullivan.
And we're talking about the property of 24896 Juniper Road in Underwood, where we live. So we are requesting a height variance on our shop building to accommodate a 412 pitch. The size of the shop we are building is 60 by 120 to accommodate our needs, and we'll have 16-foot sidewalls. With that height of walls, we would only be able to have a 112 pitch for a total height of 22 feet, which is the maximum height we are allowed. According to builder's guidelines, for a 412 pitch, we would need an additional 8 feet 6 inches for a total of 30 feet 6 inches. All of the builders we have contacted design their buildings of this size with a 412 pitch minimum. These builders that we've contacted are Menards, Morton, Clary, and Lester. The 412 pitch is the minimum recommended pitch requirement by these building companies to first of all accommodate the snow load, which the roof would need to bear. Secondly, the 412 pitch would be more aesthetically pleasing. The 112 pitch would make it look more like a commercial building. The 112 pitch would also be an additional cost of $8,000 to $12,000 because of structural changes such as heavier duty trusses, additional poles needed, and labor costs. Lastly, it would allow for us to have a loft area for storage. Our goal is to have everything inside this building.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the building?
How many pickup things, beds do you think you'll be able to store in there?
Storing there, it would accommodate quite a few, but I do also have farm tractors, and I have a couple trucks, and our pickups and stuff like that. So that,
Semis in there too?
yeah, so it will fill up pretty quickly. So that's why we're gonna have the storage behind the shed for the pickup boxes mostly.
With any,
Inside, You know, sometimes we get them and they're worth about $3,500, $3,000. Those we'll put inside so we don't have to worry about hail damage or anything like that. There's a decent investment there, so.
Are they too heavy to put up in storage up in that?
No, that would be some of the loft there. When we do the shed, we'll put in that kind of structure to hold that. Yep.
If no one else has any questions, thank you guys for coming up.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Anybody want to speak in favor of the shed? Height variance? Anybody want to speak opposed to the shed?
Gene McMain's McMains.
Fred McMain's McMains.
We bought all those years ago with the understanding that we would follow Pot County rules that were set aside. And that, I guess we're here to ask that you maybe continue to make them follow the rules. I don't know. This is the first we're hearing of this, how the size of this building is. I'm pretty sure, Lynn, you know, the building's gonna be next to our property, not their house.
I'm very well
It's-
aware of
Yeah,
that.
we
It's gonna
already
be
have.
30 some feet above, like it's gonna dwarf every house that's around there.
What was it, 30 point,
30 and a half feet
30 and a half, yeah.
To the peak.
to the peak.
That's extremely tall for a
And-
fly-by-night
and
pickup
yet-
box that they're gonna sell out of the back, not out of the building. They're selling all of it, now it sounds like they're gonna sell everything out of the back that's in this fenced-in area and use the building for just storage. That's gonna be 30 foot tall.
Which
to
I
the
guess we
peak.
would ask a question, does that mean all of the stuff that's outside will go in the building? All of the trailers and there's been, Lynn knows property well, there's been trailers and stuff that have sat there for years now that haven't moved.
So what are the dimensions off of the front of the property?
It's like 115 feet from Juniper Road.
Go 115 off the center?
Yeah. Then, it's a 25.
Off the side, yeah, that's the normal.
We're
Then-
25.
Yeah, what's
Our
the,
house
what's
is
the back?
25 off.
Right, we'll be
50 feet.
50 feet away from from the building, but.
The pitch will be towards the front, I mean, the highest pitch will be towards the front.
Well, but the pitch, the side, once again, then you start talking about the higher that roof goes,
More rain
the
it
more
catches,
water
and the
that's
more
gonna
water goes
come
off to the side of it.
flat, faster, quicker off of the building right onto us. I mean, and that sounds like a big building to me. I didn't know it was gonna be quite that big, I guess. I'm a little shocked, but, and it's definitely closer to our house than it is theirs. We already have, I have people come to the door all the time. It's never bothered me. I just tell them, no, all that business. You should know your office sent us letters in
You
November.
sent us letters for code violations in
And we got
November,
a letter in
like 3
December,
times.
yeah, for a code violation. We
So
weren't
it's the wrong
running,
address.
yeah, we weren't running the business, but
I don't know.
Possibly.
Pot County,
Yeah, I can find Matt. Matt, I believe, is who I talked to.
Pat County
Yeah, we
sent us letters.
got letters for code violations on our property that we don't
Yeah,
have.
because that's not our
We've talked to
property, all of
the Pot County
the
several
pickup
times about
boxes
that.
and the trailers, and the last one was a gentleman that came to my back door
I got you.
and asked to buy a tractor, and I'm like, no, none of that belongs to
So
me.
somebody reported the wrong address, probably because their house sits closer to.
It's, yeah,
I
all
would-
of,
ours sits
all
a
of their
lot
trailers,
closer.
all of their boxes, all of that is right on top of our property.
Yeah.
They have many feet between their house
Yeah,
and
it
those
looks more
white
like
trailers.
It's part of your property.
Yes,
It does.
yes. And the white semi-trailers block their view of all of that. My kids' windows look right out on top of all of those trailers and,
Cars parked there and everything else.
After they get it built.
well, so now is it gonna be?
So now we'll just look at a
box?
60-foot building that's 30-some feet tall, so.
So we would ask at least that you keep them within the already
Confinements of
rules that are
Properties.
set for Pot County.
buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak opposed at this time?
No one else, I guess I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
No, no. Anybody want to make?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
So moved in second. Everyone all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public hearing is now closed. As for Matt's recommendation,
This is, the height variance, part of this is something that the board is, we've been up against a couple of different times. And it really always has come down to whether or not it's in that platted subdivision aspect of it. That R1, when they did, it must have been back in the 2005, when they did the large zoning blocks of the county and modified to that. A lot of that, they did do a large R1 section to that, and that height requirement that they stuck in there, when you look at most of those post frame constructions, is rather low for them to meet those on the height side of it. And so on the ones that haven't been in rural platted subdivisions before, are usually the ones that come in and ask for that variance part of it. And just, historically, that's kind of where the zoning board of adjustment has been on these and what they were. So it's based on the information, and the recommendation of the planning department would be to approve the application, and it's subject to the following condition: that the proposed building shall be set back a minimum of 25 feet from the side yard, 50 feet from the rear yard. It's based on the following findings of fact. Number one is that the applicant's lot size is sufficient to support the proposed structure. The property is not in a platted subdivision, and the aforementioned facts reduce the potential visual and aesthetic impacts and line of sight for which the height restriction was adopted.
If I have something I don't want to look at, I usually fill a wall of trees, so that I don't have to look at it. Maybe a solution.
Some of us wouldn't live long enough for those to get 30 feet high.
You buy populars, they go fast. I don't know. That's an idea.
Have you approved these variances before on these buildings that are in R1?
Historically, the zoning board of adjustment has that we're not in platted subdivisions.
Right.
We've had a number of individuals who have come in who have been in platted subdivisions before. Small lot situations, there was just no way to get them far enough back away from their property lines to adjust for, because most of these, if you were to push it right behind the back line of the house, you can go as close as 4 feet to your property line, 4 feet to your side, 4 feet to your rear line. And so that's one of the abilities to be able to push it further in to their lot to allow for that part of
What
it.
about
But
putting it on the other side of the water line?
What's the height for other areas like agricultural area? What is there? So this height restriction
I'd
is,
have to ask Pam on that, yeah.
Pam, you know what the height restriction is?
None, in an A zone,
In an A zone?
agricultural.
So any
A4,
A4, less hills.
A2, A3, no height restrictions.
Wow.
The height restriction in R1 and R2 is 22 feet. R3, which is the really tiny platted subdivisions, 16 feet. That would be like your, I don't know, Brentwood Heights, Wilshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Does this have to do with the number of acres they've got to, being under 40 acres or so? Does that make a difference?
No. It's strictly on just the zoning district.
Well, I guess if it was me that lived next to this, I would probably appreciate them putting up a building and doing what they're wanting to do and getting everything inside and cleaning it up and making it look better. I think a building would be much better than looking at what you're already, what they're already looking at. That's what I would think, but I would think that if I was living next to it within 25 feet, 50 feet, I probably wouldn't want something 30 foot in the air blocking my view. So,
But at the same time, 22 feet is probably tall enough. I mean, it's just kind of the same.
I mean, either one's gonna block your view.
Right, yeah.
So, I don't know, but,
You can't dictate what you're looking at, I mean, always, if
Yeah.
that's their property, they can, you know,
Yeah, I
there's
know.
that way when you move there, but, you know, things change, and you can't always regulate that,
you know,
what happens.
We're not talking about the building, we're talking about 8 feet more. The building,
yeah,
like you said before, you
right.
can put that building there.
Right, and so they, yeah, I mean, and them being able to build this building at that height has nothing to do with what we just approving their conditional use. They would, if we hadn't approved that, they would still be here. If they wanted to build that building to this height, they would still have to ask for that, correct?
Correct. And it does, you know, the roof load, so it does go a little bit against on your building permit, again, because you're talking about a peak that when you get up to that higher pitch is gonna be easier for your snow loads on it than you do once you bring it down to that lower peak to stretch it out over that 60 feet. Because then you're talking about a more reinforced truss that goes across there to try to hold what the building code stipulates you have to have on, you know, it's a 30-pound snow load that you have to have for that roof structure. And so, I guess on what aesthetically, it does look more pleasing when you have those higher pitches on there than it does to go with more of a flat roofed building.
And I agree with that too. I think the higher pitch would definitely make it look nicer.
It's gonna match more what's out in that area.
Would put in more things that are outside in the building, you know, because they thought the ones that are maybe behind, they could store that, some of those up in the balcony up above, so that would be a plus for neighbors.
Yeah. Don't know.
Can I ask a question?
It's up to the chairman.
Probably because the thing has been closed, so I think we'll have to wait on this time. So what would be the normal setback if it was from the property line, like a regular shed? Is it always 25 feet, or is that?
Where the building is now,
Right.
so he's in front of the back line of his house. So the minimum would be that 25 feet off of the sideline. If you were to, say, put it behind that back line of his house, and, you know, so people will turn buildings and do all kinds of crazy things with them because a lot of people want that 4 and 4 to push it into that back corner. And so you have seen people turn them and get them behind the back line, and they could go 4 and 4, but being up here where he's at, the minimum is 25.
Right.
If you went on the other side of the waterway, would that help anything? It would make it farther away, it would make them not worry so much about the water coming on them? I mean, is there any?
I don't know enough about what's on the other side of that waterway. There could be, I don't know if there's a well, a septic ground, or what they have going on over there on that side of it. You know, one of the, it's not unheard of, I've seen it written into the board's decisions before. You can say that you want them to plant trees along the side of the building to make it more aesthetically pleasing. But, I mean, again, that's more up to the board's discretion.
120 feet. Had them every 10 feet, 12, maybe 12 trees, something like that.
By the time you're, like I said, by the time they're figured out, they'd be.
Over here. other side of the ditch. You could use this.
It would also keep some water, the roots would keep some of the water over here as opposed to going over there probably.
I think part of what you may get into trying to say, to slide it over here is with that access and that drainage, moving it because you have water coming. You're gonna, the way he has his drive now has established and been approved by the county engineer for that drainage piece of it. If you go to move it again, then it's, you're talking about going through a whole nother deal with the county engineer's office to say, well, can you have a entrance over here? Is that far enough back from the interstate, those other parts of it?
If that bothers them, they could plant the trees on their side of the property and, whatever.
Well, if there's no discussion, I guess someone would like to make a motion on the height variance. ZZ 2021-01.
I would make a motion to approve it.
Anybody want a second?
A second.
To move in second. Roll call vote.
Pierce,
Yes.
Leaders,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Herder,
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes. Height variance has been approved for the building. There's no other business, I guess. Matt, you have any other business for next week or next month?
No other business for the board tonight, and
No applications.
No applications? Now I guess we would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So move in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.